You're my love, you're my angel.
10 voices, 10 stories, 10 moments where the music just stopped. R&B and soul gave us some of the most beautiful sounds the world has ever heard. But behind each one of those voices was a life. And for 10 of those lives, the end didn't come quietly, or gently, or in peace. What I want to give you today isn't just the moment it ended, it's everything that came before it. Every choice, every injustice, every road that led here. Because they all deserve more than a headline. Number 10, James Sheppard / Shep and the Limelites. You know Daddy's Home. Even if you can't name it right now, I promise, the second it starts, you know it.
It wasn't on a Tuesday afternoon.
That gentle, aching song about a soldier finally making it back to the woman waiting for him. It played at Sunday dinners, family gatherings. That one uncle who'd turn up the radio and nod like it reached something private. The man who wrote it, sang it, and built it from nothing was James Sheppard. He started with the Heartbeats in the early 1950s.
Love, you're my angel, you're the girl.
1,000 Miles Away, a doo-wop classic that came out of Queens, New York, with a longing in it that sounded like something real.
Daddy's home.
Then, in 1960, he formed Shep and the Limelites with 2 friends, picked up that same storyline, and in the spring of 1961, Daddy's Home shot to number 2 on the Billboard pop chart. Number 2.
Made a promise that you treasure.
The only thing that kept it from the top spot was Ricky Nelson's Travelin' Man. That's the company this record was keeping. But here's where the story turns dark.
Your daddy's home.
Before any of the violence, Roulette Records, a label with well-documented ties to organized crime, discovered a legal argument. Daddy's Home, built on an earlier song Shepard had written for a different label they now controlled.
Your daddy's home to stay.
A federal court agreed. Every royalty from Daddy's Home was stripped from the man who created it. The lawsuit buried Hull Records. The group broke up, and James Sheppard watched the song he poured his heart into generate money for people who had nothing to do with making it.
How I've waited for this moment.
He spent the back half of the 1960s trying to rebuild what he'd lost. The drinking got worse, sessions got missed, bookings fell through. But in 1969, he put the Limelites back together to work the oldies revival circuit. The only place the music still lived, and the only market that still wanted his voice. He was making his way back, slowly, but making it. On January 24, 1970, James Sheppard was found in his car on the Long Island Expressway.
Your best friend wrote and told me.
He had been beaten, he had been shot, he had been robbed. He was 34 years old. His murder has never been solved. And here's what still gets me.
Love, you're my angel, you're the girl.
He wrote a song called Daddy's Home, about finding your way back to the person waiting for you. He spent the last years of his life literally trying to come back to the music he'd built. He never made it.
The Limelites!
Whoever took James Sheppard on that highway didn't just take a man. They took the writer of one of the most tender songs in the entire history of R&B, and nobody ever answered for it.
Made a promise that you treasure.
Number 9, Cornell Gunter, The Coasters. You've heard his voice your whole life. You just might not have known his name. Yakety Yak, that horn-driven groove that hit #1 on both the pop and R&B charts in 1958. That's Cornell Gunter. Charlie Brown, why is everybody always picking on me? That's Cornell Gunter. Poison Ivy, Searchin'.
Yakety yak. Don't talk back. You just put on your coat and hat.
He was the lead tenor of the Coasters, one of the most beloved doo-wop groups in the history of American music, and a vocalist who understood that humor and heartbreak could live in the same song without fighting each other. And in 1987, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame agreed. Cornell Gunter was inducted as part of the Coasters, a recognition that was long overdue, but it arrived.
Ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Say yakety yak. Don't talk back. Let's dance, clean it up, yo.
By the late 1980s, he was working the Las Vegas entertainment circuit, leading his own version of the Coasters, keeping those songs alive in rooms that still loved them.
Girl, that college out of sight. Oh, you don't go out Friday.
A comeback, a second chapter. The music wasn't finished with him yet. On the morning of February 26, 1990, Cornell Gunter was sitting in his car at a stop in North Las Vegas. He had a show booked at the Lady Luck Hotel that weekend. Witnesses later told police they had seen him arguing with a man standing outside his car window. Then shots were fired through the windshield. He was hit twice.
Bring in that dog and put out the gas. Yakety yak.
He tried to drive away and made it about a block before the car rolled into a wall. Cornell Gunter, 53 years old, was pronounced dead at the scene. His murder was never solved. No arrests, no charges. No one has ever been held accountable for the killing of the man who gave the Coasters their sound, a voice that played at every diner, every backyard party, every oldies radio broadcast for 60-plus years.
Girl, that college out of sight. Oh, you don't go out Friday.
That's the particular kind of loss that the music industry doesn't know how to grieve. The session players, the voice actors, the ensemble singers, the people who made the records that defined an era, so often lived and died without the world knowing who they were. Cornell Gunter was one of those people. And if you're the kind of person who smiles when Yakety Yak comes on the radio, you should know whose voice just made you smile.
Don't you give me no dirty look.
Real talk, only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's one coffee a month and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 8, Don Myrick's Earth, Wind, and Fire. If you've ever felt after the love has gone, reach somewhere it shouldn't be able to reach through a speaker, if Boogie Wonderland has ever made your body move before your brain caught up, if Let's Groove came on somewhere and the whole room shifted, you were inside a sound that Don Myrick helped build. He was the lead saxophonist of the Phoenix Horns, the horn section at the center of Earth, Wind, and Fire's identity. Not just a part of the band, a defining part of the band. The Grammy for Best R&B Instrumental in 1977-78 came in part because of Don Myrick's playing. He worked sessions with Phil Collins, including the saxophone solo on One More Night that you can still hum right now. He played with Carlos Santana, with Bobby Blue Bland, with Grover Washington Jr., a musician's musician who understood his job was to serve the song. But by the early 1990s, Don Myrick had fallen through the cracks that the music industry quietly cuts in the floor beneath its session players. The work had slowed. He was fighting leukemia. He was living in a modest apartment in Los Angeles, a long way from the stage. On July 30th, 1993, in the early morning hours, Santa Monica police officers came to his door with a narcotics warrant. They entered his apartment, and in the tight hallway, in the dim light, an officer saw something in Don Myrick's hand and made a split-second decision. He fired one shot into Don Myrick's chest. What was in Don Myrick's hand was a butane lighter. Not a gun, a lighter. Don Myrick died in the hospital that morning. He was 53 years old. His bandmate Larry Dunn stood up at his funeral and said, "To be shot down like a common criminal, it's ridiculous." His family sued the city of Los Angeles for wrongful death and received a $400,000 settlement. No criminal charges were ever filed against the officer. Phil Collins wrote a song called "For a Friend" as a tribute. He spoke about it rarely. The loss was too close. Here's what you're left with. A man who spent his life making some of the most joyful music of the 20th century was killed in his own home, with a lighter in his hand. And the system that was supposed to protect him simply moved on. Number 7, Al Jackson Jr. / Booker T and the MGs. You might not know his name, but your body knows his hands. Al Jackson Jr. was the drummer at the absolute center of the Stax Records sound, the pocket that held everything together, the groove that made those records feel like a conversation between human beings and not just a performance. Green Onions, In the Midnight Hour, Respect, Try a Little Tenderness, Hold On, I'm Coming, I've Been Loving You Too Long, Decades of Otis Redding, Sam and Dave, Wilson Pickett, Carla Thomas, Eddie Floyd. He also held down the drum chair at High Records and played on Al Green's greatest records. They called him the human timekeeper. Honestly, that might be the most underrated title in the history of American music. In 1975, 4 years after Booker T and the MG's last album, the band decided to reunite for 3 years. A full comeback. Al Jackson was in. But here's what almost nobody tells you about 1975. In July of that year, just months before his murder, his wife Barbara shot him in the chest during a domestic dispute. He decided not to press charges. He filed for divorce instead. He was trying to move forward, planning to relocate to Atlanta to work with songwriter William Bell. On September 30th, 1975, Al Jackson stayed in Memphis to watch the Thrilla in Manila on the big screen at the Mid-South Coliseum. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, one of the greatest nights in sports history. He went with friends. After it was over, he came home. Intruders were waiting. He was ordered to his knees. Then he was shot 5 times in the back. He was 39 years old. Barbara Jackson ran into the street and told police that robbers had tied her up and shot her husband when he returned. But police found nothing disturbed inside the home. His wallet and jewelry were still on his body. Nothing had been taken. A man believed to be connected to the killing was later shot by police in a separate incident in 1976. No one was ever charged with Al Jackson's murder. The man who played on more soul classics than almost anyone who ever sat behind a drum kit was killed in his own home. And nobody went to prison for it. That's not just a tragedy. That's an indictment of how much we valued the people who built the music. Number 6. Paul Williams / The Temptations.
What can make me feel this way?
Here's something that gets buried under all the shiny Motown history. Before it was Ruffin, before it was Kendrick's, before the matching suits and the synchronized footwork were famous all over the world, the Temptations were Paul Williams' group. He co-founded it. He sang lead on the early records. He built the choreography that made them iconic. And not just the Temptations, he choreographed for the Supremes too. The footwork that every group in the world tried to copy for a decade, it traces back to Paul Williams. He was the architect. He was also hiding something: sickle cell anemia, a disease that caused him real, chronic pain, and in the brutal touring world of Motown in the 1960s, nobody slowed down for pain. You smiled, you moved, you kept the schedule, and when the pain became too much, alcohol arrived to help. By 1971, a doctor found a spot on his liver and told him he had to step away immediately. He left the group he'd spent a decade building. Motown, to their credit, kept him on the payroll as an advisor, a fifth of the Temptations' earnings, but he owed $80,000 in taxes. His marriage was falling apart, and the music he'd given his health to now moved forward without him. He started working on solo material in early 1973, writing, recording, trying to find a way back in. On August 17, 1973, Paul Williams was found in a car parked near 14th and West Grand Boulevard in Detroit, just blocks from Hitsville, USA, the building where his career had begun. He was wearing only swimming trunks. A gun was found near his body. He was 34 years old. The coroner ruled it a suicide.
When it's cold outside.
But here's what the coroner's report also documented: 3 details his family has never been able to accept. The gun was found in his right hand, but the gunshot wound was on the left side of his head. A bottle of alcohol was near his left side, positioned as though he'd dropped it while being shot, and the gun had discharged 2 rounds, not 1.
One man can claim.
No investigation ever produced a different answer. The ruling stands, but his family never believed it, and the details have never been satisfactorily explained.
I've got the month of May.
Whether it was a suicide shaped by everything that had been taken from him or something more sinister, one of the architects of the most iconic group in Motown history deserved a real answer. He never got one.
I guess you say.
Number 5. Donny Hathaway.
Wanna be together.
Donny Hathaway was one of the most complete musicians in the entire history of soul music. Not just a voice, a complete musician. He could play piano, he could write, he could arrange, he could produce. And his vocal gift was the kind that makes you feel like you're not just hearing a song, you're standing inside it. The Ghetto, This Christmas, A Song for You, Where is the Love, with Roberta Flack, a massive hit in 1972 that announced him to the world in a way that couldn't be ignored. And then, after years of silence and struggle,
Hang all the mistletoe.
The Closer I Get to You, with Flack in 1978, a comeback record that went to number 2 on the pop chart and number 1 on R&B. He was 33 years old. He was back. The world was ready for him. But behind the music, something had been breaking down for years. In the early 1970s, Donny Hathaway was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. He was hospitalized multiple times. He was taking up to 14 medications a day. And his paranoia, real and overwhelming to him, had convinced him that he was being watched, targeted, controlled.
This month, and as we trim the tree, how much fun it's going.
On the very day that would turn out to be his last, he told Roberta Flack during dinner that white people were trying to kill him, that he could hear God's voice.
We're caroling through the.
That evening, January 13, 1979, Hathaway returned to his room on the 15th floor of the Essex House Hotel on Central Park South in Manhattan. A few hours later, his body was found on the sidewalk below. The hotel room door was locked from the inside.
It's filled with cheer and you.
The window's safety glass had been carefully removed and placed on the bed. There was no sign of a struggle. The New York City Medical Examiner ruled his death a suicide.
This Christmas, the fireside is blazing.
His family and friends never fully accepted it. Roberta Flack was devastated. She took the tracks they'd just recorded and released them on her next album, Back Together Again, went to number 1 on the R&B chart. He never heard it.
For me, yeah.
The painful truth is this: whether his death came by his own hands in the grip of a mental crisis or in some other way, the conditions that led him there started long before that night.
This Christmas, the fireside is blazing bright.
A music industry that celebrated his genius and provided almost nothing to protect it. A mind in terrible pain that didn't get the sustained care it needed. A man who gave the world something extraordinary and was failed in ways that were quiet and accumulating and invisible until they weren't.
Wanna be together. This
Donny Hathaway deserved more than what the world gave him. Number 4, King Curtis. He wasn't just a saxophone player, he was the connective tissue of a generation. The sound that showed up on records across every genre, often uncredited, always unmistakable. He played on the Coasters' Yakety Yak in 1958. He played the saxophone on Aretha Franklin's Respect in 1967. He recorded sessions for Buddy Holly, for Sam Cooke, for Duane Allman, and in July of 1971, just weeks before he died, he recorded saxophone solos for John Lennon's Imagine album, an album that was released 25 days after King Curtis was killed. His own records were extraordinary. Soul Twist hit number 1 on the R&B chart in 1962. Memphis Soul Stew in 1967 is still one of the most confident, fully realized pieces of music that decade produced. And the band he led, the Kingpins, served as Aretha Franklin's touring and recording band, which means they were also the band that opened for the Beatles at Shea Stadium in 1965. If you were in that moment, his music was in that room.
Truman Thomas on the organ, ladies.
By 1971, King Curtis was 37 years old and building something of his own. He had recently purchased a brownstone apartment building at 50 West 86th Street on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. A property, a foundation, a future. He was at the peak of everything he had worked toward. On the night of August 13, 1971, he came to the building to deal with an air conditioning problem. He found two men loitering on his front steps, doing drugs, using his property. He asked them to move.
Let me get this right. That's it, right?
One of them, a 26-year-old named Juan Montanez, refused. Words turned into a fight, and Montanez pulled a knife and drove it into King Curtis's chest. Even then, King Curtis wrestled the knife away and stabbed his attacker 4 times, but the damage was done.
A little more drums. How about a little congetto?
He was rushed to Roosevelt Hospital. He died within the hour. Montanez was arrested at the same hospital where he'd been admitted with stab wounds. He was convicted of manslaughter and served 6 years.
And now we need 4 level.
At King Curtis's funeral, Aretha Franklin sang, Stevie Wonder sang, Jesse Jackson preached the eulogy. Over 2,000 people came to say goodbye. Here's what still gets me about this story. King Curtis died on the steps of the building he had just purchased. He died trying to protect the thing he had spent his whole career building. And the world he left behind had no idea how much of its own sound came from him. His name should be spoken more often than it is. Number 3, Roger Troutman, Zapp.
Have a good time. Put your hands up and let's party all night. Come on.
What I'm about to tell you is a story about family, about music, about money, and it ends in a way that still doesn't feel real, even knowing all the details. Roger Troutman was a genuine innovator, not ahead of his time in the loose, casual way people say that. Actually, technically, sonically ahead.
Wait a minute. You know what?
He took a device called a talk box, a tube that feeds an instrument's sound through your own throat and mouth to shape the pitch, and turned it into a voice nobody had heard before. That robotic singing through technology sound on Zapp's records, Roger Troutman perfected it and made it iconic. More bounce to the ounce in 1980, Ice Cube has said it was the first hip-hop record he ever heard. His 1987 solo single, I Wanna Be Your Man, went to number 1 on the R&B chart. And then in 1995, when Tupac and Dr. Dre called on him for California Love, Roger Troutman's voice gave that track the element that made it timeless, and introduced a new generation to a sound that had been revolutionary 15 years earlier.
Well, come on over here and party with me. Come on.
Zapp was built around family. His brothers were in it. His older brother Larry managed the business side, the contracts, the finances, the daily operations of their company and recording complex in Dayton, Ohio. But in 1999, the business was under pressure. The finances had been strained. Reports from those close to the situation suggest that Roger was preparing to remove Larry from his management role, that the professional relationship was coming apart, and that what lived underneath was something older and harder to name. On April 25, 1999, a Sunday morning, witnesses saw Roger Troutman seated in a car outside his recording studio. His brother Larry approached. An argument broke out. Larry Troutman shot his brother multiple times with a .357 revolver. Roger was rushed to Good Samaritan Hospital and died during surgery. He was 47 years old. Larry Troutman drove away. He crashed his car half a mile from where Roger lay. He shot himself in the head. 3,000 people attended the joint funeral in Dayton. The caskets were open, side by side, the same blood, the same music, the same family that built something together. And at the end, one of them ended it. Number 2, Sam Cooke.
I've been running ever since.
If you know anything about soul music, you know Sam Cooke's name.
I don't know what's up there.
And if you know anything about December 11th, 1964, you already know the official story, and you already know why so many people have never fully believed it.
A long time coming, but I know
He was the king of soul, the man who crossed over from gospel and proved that a black artist could own his career, not just participate in it.
there've been times that
He co-founded SAR Records, one of the first black-owned record labels of any real scale, and ran his own publishing company. He was building something generational in an industry that wasn't designed to let him, and he made records that mattered.
but I'm afraid to die.
You Send Me went to number 1 on both the pop and R&B charts in 1957. Chain Gang, Cupid, Twistin' the Night Away, Another Saturday Night, A Change Is Gonna Come, a song about the long arc of justice, recorded in January 1964.
In a little tent, oh, and just like
The single was released weeks after he was killed. It became a civil rights anthem that has never stopped playing. He was 33 years old, the most promising person in any room he walked into. Here's what the official record says happened on the night of December 11th, 1964.
it's been a long
Sam Cooke met a woman named Elisa Boyer at a Hollywood restaurant. They ended up at the Hacienda Motel in South Central Los Angeles. Boyer later claimed Cooke attacked her.
back down on my knees.
She fled his room in his clothes, most of them, leaving him in a sports coat and one shoe. Disoriented and inebriated, Cooke broke into the manager's office looking for her.
I couldn't last for long.
The manager, Bertha Franklin, shot him 3 times in self-defense, ruling justifiable homicide. Case closed. But here's what the record also says.
And I said,
Sam Cooke was reportedly carrying $5,000 in cash that night, money that was never recovered. Boyer was arrested for prostitution a month later.
it's gonna come. Oh, yes, it will.
In 1979, she was convicted of second-degree murder in the shooting of another man. Bertha Franklin, the woman who killed him, had her own criminal past.
Then I go to my.
The bullet that killed Sam Cooke went missing from evidence, and the gun used in the shooting was not the weapon originally registered to Franklin.
Oh, yes, it will.
His family hired a private investigator. They have always maintained the story was staged, that Sam Cooke was lured, robbed, and killed, and that the official version existed to ensure no one was ever held accountable. No one ever was.
A long time coming.
200,000 people lined the streets of Los Angeles and Chicago to mourn him. His widow married Bobby Womack within months. The publishing catalog Sam had fought to own was later sold for $103,000, a catalog that today generates millions every year.
But I know change gon' come.
The question of what really happened at the Hacienda Motel has never been answered, and more than 60 years later, it probably never will be.
Long time coming, but I know a change.
Number 1, Marvin Gaye.
Got to find a
There's a version of this story you've heard. The argument, the gun, the day before his 45th birthday. But I don't want to start there. I want to start at the beginning, because nothing about the end makes sense without understanding everything that came before it. And once you know it, the whole story sits differently. Marvin Gaye Jr. grew up in Washington, D.C., with a Pentecostal minister father who ruled the home like a court and who administered punishment for violations no child should be judged for. Marvin said years later that by the time he was 12, there wasn't an inch of his body that hadn't been bruised and beaten by his father. He spent his whole childhood trying to earn love from someone who appeared incapable of giving it. When he became famous, he added an E to his last name, a small distance, a quiet act of separation between who he was and where he came from. He gave the world How Sweet It Is. I Heard It Through the Grapevine, which went to number 1 in 1968. What's Going On? Let's Get It On. Got to Give It Up. And then Sexual Healing in 1982. His biggest commercial moment in years, 2 Grammy wins, a return that nobody expected and everybody needed. He had just experienced one of the most remarkable second acts in the history of popular music. But behind it, his personal life was collapsing. Debt, substance abuse, depression so heavy it had weight. By 1983, he moved back into his parents' home in Los Angeles, into the house where, as a child, he had learned exactly what love wasn't. The argument that ended everything started over a misplaced insurance policy letter. On April 1st, 1984, the day before his 45th birthday, Marvin heard his parents fighting. He stepped in to defend his mother.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we give our orchestra a fine round of applause?
The confrontation with his father turned physical. They were separated. Marvin went to his bedroom. Marvin Gaye Sr. retrieved a .38 special revolver from his bedroom, the same gun his son had given him as a gift. He walked into Marvin's room. He fired once into his son's chest. The bullet pierced his heart, his lung, his liver, his stomach, and his left kidney. The first shot was fatal. He stepped closer and fired again. Marvin Gaye was pronounced dead at 1:01 p.m., one day before he would have turned 45. His father was never imprisoned. He pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter and received a suspended sentence. No prison time. A brain tumor discovered afterward was used in his defense. Marvin's brother Frankie held him in his final moments. He later wrote that Marvin's last words were, "I got what I wanted, I couldn't do it myself, so I made him do it." 10,000 people attended his funeral at Forest Lawn on April 5, 1984. There are some sentences in music history that you just have to let sit. That's one of them.